guys, it's Ben Wan, and I have Andrew here.
Hey guys.
Hey guys, and we are talking once again about Batman 1989. It is June 2019, which makes this the 30th anniversary of the 1989 Batman movie. Funny enough, Michael Uslan, the producer, says it's technically the 40th anniversary because it took him 10 years to make this goddamn movie.
Yeah.
You can find out more details about it in his book, The Boy Who Loved Batman, I think is the name of it.
I have it right here, yeah.
So, great book. Loved it. He had a hell of a time. Once he got the rights of it, he had a hell of a time trying to sell this thing. He even wrote a script, which I would love to read, but I can't find it anywhere on the internet, called Return of the Batman.
Really?
It was. I don't know if he was serious about it being made so much as he wanted to show it as an example of what it could be. But and that was before The Dark Knight Returns. So I don't know if there was some sort of old Batman or retirement type of thing coming into fruition, but whatever the case is, that was technically the first attempt at this. I don't know much details about it other than what's in that book. But what I do know about is a script from 1982 titled, funny enough, The Batman, just like the upcoming Matt Reeves version. It was written by Tom Mankiewicz, who wrote a few of the James Bond movies with Sean Connery in Diamonds Are Forever. And
so this Bond connection does not start with Nolan.
Oh, no.
Where Lucius is his Q.
It starts... I mean, technically it starts as far back as Adam West, because Adam West was offered the role of Bond in You Only Live Twice.
Wow.
And he smartly turned it down because he's like, I'm an American dude. American guy can't play James Bond.
That's
and
crazy.
I was like, I agree with that. So Mankiewicz wrote the James Bond movies, but more than that, I think they hired him because he was instrumental in Superman the movie and Superman 2.
Okay. Gotcha.
I met him before he died because he came to my school once, and I flat out asked him, who came up with the line, Kneel Before Zod? And he was like, me.
That's awesome.
So he's the reason why they came up. I even brought up, like, dude, I've even read your Batman script. And he's like, good Lord, how did that end up on the internet? And I was like, I don't know, but I loved it. So he was hired because he was instrumental in those movies. He wrote a lot of it. He wasn't the main writer on it. He wasn't even credited as the main writer on it, but he pretty much flat out wrote a lot of the big beats. So, of course, they were to hire the guy who helped bring Superman to life. And I kind of detailed the script a little bit in our Justice League Mortal episode, but I'm going to go a little bit more into detail of it. On that episode, I said Justice League Mortal was the greatest DC movie never made. This one may have been one of the greatest Batman solo movies never made, because it's essentially what Batman Begins would have been in 1982.
Okay. Year one type shit.
It was but it was pre-year one. Remember, this is 82. Year one came out in 87.
Oh my
There was
God.
no year one. There was like the
so
only.
this guy was doing new ground in the movie.
Kind of like he was deriving from the Untold Legend of the Batman, which is the comic that I told you I kind of grew up with and didn't really realize I was getting influenced by. It has Joe Chill in it. It has a lot of the classic stuff. So it's mostly influenced by the Untold Legend of the Batman, as well as the run done by Steve Englehart and Marshall Rogers in the 1970s, collected as Strange Apparitions. And we're going to be talking about that a lot, because there's an undercurrent there of it influencing a lot of stuff. But that's the arc, for those who aren't familiar with it, that's the arc that has Bruce Wayne's love story with Silver St. Cloud. Rupert Thorne, who most people might remember from the animated series as the guy responsible for Harvey turning into Two-Face. It has the laughing fish in it, and it has the Hugo Strange finding out that Bruce Wayne's Batman. Also, it has Deadshot. The first time they brought back Deadshot and gave him the iconic suit that he has now was in that arc. So those are the ones that were influencing it. And a lot of the beats were very much like Batman Begins. So, for example, it starts off with an introduction to the Waynes, Thomas and Martha Wayne. We see Martha get the pearls. We see, young Bruce Wayne and everything. In this version, Thomas Wayne is a political candidate for city council, and his main rival is Rupert Thorne. And he takes the night off. This is also kind of like what ended up in Earth 1. Jeff Johns, where he was also running for mayor against Cobblepot, and they went to the movies and everything.
So I've read Earth 1, and isn't there one panel where the guy grabs him and grabs his cape and says like a cape, and then he flips over him and he's like a weapon, and he starts to choke him out with the cape?
Yes.
That's the main fucking panel I remember from Earth 1. They need to do more shit with the cape.
They should, yeah.
Like tactical cape shit.
I think it was Neil Adams who said something Yeah, he said something where he would put on a cape. Either he would put on a cape or he would see someone put on a cape, and he would move around and figure out how to move around in it so that he knew how to draw Batman.
Okay.
And he realized that Bruce must have trained himself in the cave to wear the cape and be able to move and do the fights and do certain moves in that cape so that it wouldn't trip him up.
Oh, you would have to.
Yeah,
you would have to.
I always love that detail.
Yeah.
But anyways, they see a nun story with Audrey Hepburn, which is a weird choice. I don't know why but to be fair, I don't even know if the Mark of Zorro was ever established at this point as the movie. So again, like I can't hold that against Mankiewicz because I have to remember this is pre-year one.
It was always a movie even back in the day before the Nolan theater play shit?
Hold on, I'm currently re-looking to see.
He's got the original run here.
The original run. Bill Finger writes, some 15 years ago, Thomas Wayne, his wife, and son were walking home from a movie.
A movie.
So
wow.
it never specifies what the movie is. I think it was Miller who came up with the idea it was the Mark of Zorro. But again, Miller wasn't writing any Batman comics in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
So again, can't blame him for using that. Joe Chill shows up, kills the Waynes. Bruce, as a kid, stares at him with like this stare that creeps out Joe Chill, and Joe Chill's like, stop staring at me like that kid.
Okay.
Which is directly from the comic and Untold Legend of the Batman. And we stay with them, and we find out that Joe Chill was hired by the Joker.
Okay.
So the Joker's already in the green hair, the white face, the red lips, everything at this point. But this was the first instance where Joker is responsible for the death of the Waynes. He's just not the gunman in this point.
Okay.
In the first draft, Joker kills Joe Chill, but in the second draft, he pays him off and just lets him go.
Okay.
So that we'll see Joe Chill later. For Bruce, it was interesting because...
This is all in the Mankiewicz script.
This is all the Mankiewicz script,
okay.
Yeah. With Bruce, like, it's not like Batman Begins where he's like, okay, I must fight justice, and then goes off and meets Liam Neeson or anything like that. We don't see the vow of becoming to fight evil, which, to be fair, isn't in any other live-action version of the origin either. We've never really seen...
Right.
Yeah, a young Bruce Wayne.
I shall become a bat.
We never really see that. Or, like, I swear on the deaths of my parents that, I will wage my life in war on all criminals type of thing.
Right.
There's no mentor character. He kind of dives, or his therapy is training himself through different thrill seeking. So he does go to karate class. He does learn how to mountain climb and all that type of stuff, but it's never really seen as, like, he's trained to be a vigilante so much as, like, he's just trying to cope with this loss that he's had.
He does that by thrill seeking.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily training for his crusade.
He's not, and it's just kind of more of a coincidence that stuff ends up happening.
That's how Mankiewicz saw this.
That's how Mankiewicz did it. Because again, like, the idea of Batman traveling around the world and stuff wasn't established yet. Mm-hmm.
There was no, like, training in Asia type of shit at this time.
Yeah, that wasn't established until around the time of the 89 movie or so.
Yeah, right.
Funny enough, by Sam Hamm, who would have written the final version that we saw.
Okay.
But yeah, so I can't really blame him because it wasn't really in it. Untold Legend of the Batman has a little bit.
When you look at, like, if you go back and watch the Adam West Batman, this was 1966, where you don't really have, like, martial arts like being a thing yet, because Bruce Lee comes out in the 70s. So I think Bruce Lee and, like, kung fu flicks don't really they don't really influence American culture at large just yet.
No, that too.
So
I mean, he does have some karate scenes, but that's about it. It's not
as much as it eventually became, though. Like, now you can't have a fight scene in any movie almost.
I mean, this is 82, so it's post Bruce Lee, but still.
But I'm saying, like, you see a Batman with no martial arts influence when you watch Batman. The Adam West Batman.
Yeah, I can
like
see that,
almost no martial arts. It's like basically Western style punches and some kicks, I guess. But whenever you get to even 89 Batman to a certain degree, and it's definitely by Nolan, there's definitely like this martial arts influenced Batman.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Absolutely.
sorry for the tangent.
No
Go
problem,
back to what you were saying.
He does he basically does some race car driving, and this one reporter. It's in a very similar scene to Iron Man, where the reporter is like wants to know more about him, wants to do a story, and cut to them in bed together, type of thing.
Oh wow!
So I'm
Batman
wondering,
fucks.
Yeah, and he's walking out and he sees his family get attacked and mugged, and he's like, I got to do something, and because he's been trained in karate, because he did all the thrill seeking stuff, he goes after them, and he fights off this motorcycle gang, but he realizes he came in too late because the guy had already shot the father before he came in.
Okay.
So he feels guilty about that. And again, this predates the whole year one thing of like fighting Selena Kyle and going to East End and everything like that while disguised with a scar across his face. This is literally just Bruce Wayne being Bruce Wayne, trying to fight crime and realizing that he lacks an edge. So he goes to Wayne Manor and sort of mourns about it until he discovers the cave.
Okay.
And he goes into the cave, and bats start swarming around him. And it's a very familiar image because that's basically what happened in Batman Begins.
Yes.
Because this is the replacement of the bat flying through the window type of thing.
Yeah.
All these bats swarm around him. But in the Mankiewicz version, apparently, he like lets out this like primal like war cry as it happens, which is kind of interesting. I don't know how that would have played out on film.
Why would he do that? Just because he's afraid, or?
Well, I think it's him he has this anger that's been built up that he never really had an outlet for, a true outlet for, and didn't really find it from
so the
all
bats create in him a release.
He realizes that's going to be his release from now on. Because after that...
That's interesting. Yeah. I kind of like that. At first, just to kind of pick apart what you were saying, right. Well, this script, at first I didn't really like that because I'm so attached to the idea of him making a vow really early on.
Yeah, no, same here, absolutely.
And him like doing this thrill-seeking stuff is sort of against the character in a way because it almost makes it seem like he kind of inadvertently becomes a hero, but that's right. The thing is there's other heroes like that in comic books for sure, kind of become one on accident, but I have always seen Batman as becoming a hero very much on purpose.
Because he wanted to, yeah. So this kind of makes up for it. I mean, I still prefer the traditional one, just like you. Yeah. But I can kind of see, like, okay, this is... He's trying to introduce this or make it palatable, and maybe he thought that, Mankiewicz thought that the idea of a kid being like, "I will fight crime" was a little too cartoony.
I get it, and the bats and the bats creating a release in him. I like that a lot. I think that's cool. Yeah. The way it plays out in the Nolan version,
it's very different.
It's it's a baptism. He's baptized with bats. Well, he realizes he's born again.
Yeah, he realizes the symbol he's going to use. Type of thing. Yeah. So we see Batman's first night out. It's kind of like what we saw in Superman, the movie of Superman's first night out, where he stops multiple crimes. Right. He stops this gang member attacking a couple who's going to prom. Then we meet Commissioner Gordon, who's very tired and weary. For some reason, his name is David Gordon. I don't know what it is about these adaptations because they replaced Bruce Banner with David Banner in the Hulk, and now it's instead of James Gordon, it's David Gordon. But anyway, maybe Mankiewicz just didn't know what his real first name was. I don't know. Gordon just doesn't believe that there's a real Batman until Batman stops a hostage situation. And all the different witnesses' reports all across town is about this giant bat. And he's like, well, it must be fucking real, but like, what the hell? In the second draft, Batman does all this stuff and then goes into a bar in disguise to hear what people are saying about it. And trying to help spread the legend of just like, oh, I heard this, I heard that sort of thing, trying to help spread his own legend.
This is really fun so far.
Yeah. And then he sees in the bar Joe Chill.
Oh, shit.
And he follows Chill home, and he comes back in the Batman suit, and he confronts Chill, and he's like, 15 years ago, you shot a man and his wife, type of thing. And Chill's like, you'll get away from me, like I got a bad heart and things like that, like what I did was in the past, dude, and everything. And Batman keeps saying details, and Chill's like, how do you know all that? And Batman takes off his mask, and he says, because I saw it. Because I'm their son, I'm Bruce Wayne. Yeah. And Chill sees the same look that Bruce gave him, that kid gave him, and he's like, oh my God, it's you. Yeah. And he has a heart attack, and then he dies. Based on the guilt that he had done of the crime that he had done so long ago. Right. And Bruce goes back to the Batcave and tells Alfred, and Alfred's like, you didn't, and Bruce is like, no, I didn't have a chance to. I didn't even know what I was really going to do to him. Right. And Bruce confesses, this is more than just my vengeance now. I can't, it's already done. It has to be more about the city, right, and everything.
There's a lot of character arc happening in this movie.
This is already more character arcing than Batman '89, the movie.
Right. Yeah.
So, this is this version of the whole Joe Chill thing because Begins had a very different take.
Everything's lined up and makes sense so far. Right. It really does.
Yeah. So I like that. It's almost a complete arc already, even though we're maybe less than halfway. We're like a quarter through this movie.
Right. We're not in the third act yet.
We're not even close to the first act.
The third, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we move into the main plot of the movie now, after like an hour of this. Where, Bruce meets Silver St. Cloud, who is like the intern for City Councilman Rupert Thorne in this version. Silver is introduced, I mean, it's the 1980s. She's introduced coming out of a pool in a bathing suit, just like Honey Ryder and Dr. No.
Of course.
And there's kind of a love triangle with Bruce, Silver, and Rupert Thorne, which is kind of icky because Rupert is like old enough to be her dad. But anyway, Bruce is throwing a birthday party for Commissioner Gordon that night, and gets to know Silver over there, and the birthday party gets hijacked by the Joker.
Okay.
And Bruce is like, he's pissed off about this, and Silver can see it, and she sees his nervous tell, which is like his jaw twitching, and everything. The Joker leaves, and Gordon just feels disgraced because like he feels the police department is a joke now because they can't stop this guy.
Okay.
So he's depressed. He's in his office, and Batman shows up and tries to convince Gordon that they should become partners. Gordon pulls a gun on him and says, you're under arrest, you're a vigilante, everything like that. And Batman's like, you need me, type of thing. This is also a scene in Untold Legend of the Batman that Mankiewicz was adapting. And he's like, if you don't believe we can work together, then you might as well pull the trigger, type of thing. And Gordon thinks about it, and instead of pulling the trigger, he shakes his hand. And then we cut to like Batman and Gordon are now working together against like evil and everything, and the bat signal is created and everything. It's
so far this is better than my nostalgia-filled Batman '89.
Yes, exactly.
It's like they read this and they were like, "Nope, this makes too much sense.
This makes too much.
We're going to just fuck with it now."
Batman. Now, here's where things get a little more on the 60s side. Is that Batman is like now this public hero and has all these public appearances. The mayor wants to give him a key to the city, type of stuff.
Yeah,
so
see, I don't like that.
See, I don't see this immediately like, but again, like think this is pre-Miller, like this is pre-urban legend type Batman type stuff. So yes, it is reminiscent of Schumacher and Adam West type stuff, but also like we only associate it with those because those are the only other adaptations that did that. It is something that was in still the 40s comics and everything. Anyways, the Joker is sick of Batman going after him.
Okay.
So he hires the Penguin. In the first draft, he hires the Penguin to go after Batman. And they sort of set him up by having Rupert Thorne kind of quote-unquote kidnapped, even though Thorne's working with Joker.
Right.
And everything. Silver St. Cloud ends up accidentally walking into it, and they have to knock her out and everything.
Okay.
Batman gets called to it. Rupert Thorne pretends that, Joker, like, put me in danger and everything like that. And Batman's like, okay, well, I'll escort Miss St. Cloud home and everything, which Thorne doesn't like because he knows what the plan is, which is that, if they've baited Batman to that location, now Penguin's going to go after him.
Right.
So this is where we have the Batmobile chase.
Okay.
Where Penguin is chasing after the Batmobile and everything. The chase is going on. Penguin's on like that whirly umbrella thing and everything. It's so comic booky, but it's amazing.
It sounds fun though. Yeah. That sounds good.
And the Batmobile jumps off rooftops. It's like the Tumbler.
In 82.
This is in 82, yeah. And during this Batmobile chase, Silver looks over at Batman, and Batman's jaw twitches.
And she was this part of the thing? This was part of Batman's lore, is that he had a fucking jaw twitch?
No, that's Mankiewicz.
This is just something he added just for a plot device?
Well, in the original arc, Silver St. Cloud talks about how since she's been intimate with Bruce Wayne, she knows what his chin looks like. So when she sees Batman, she can recognize him under the cowl.
Woman's intuition, some shit like that.
She was technically the first to figure it out. So
gotcha.
Mankiewicz is kind of giving an explanation to that.
Right.
She kind of figures out, okay, I think Bruce is Batman. What do I do with this information? That type of thing.
Right.
Immediately afterwards, Joker hijacks the airwaves, and he says, Batman, if you show up in public again, I will kill somebody, and I will kill somebody every time that you show up in public again, which is kind of like a precursor to Joker's, like, if Batman doesn't take off his mask, people will die type of thing.
Right.
So Bruce is like, well, I got to stay in the shadows. I can't, I got to figure out a way to stop Joker without being Batman.
Right.
Thing is, this is the Joker. So Joker has an imposter Batman show up to different events and then starts killing people. to frame Batman and everything. So he uses.
Damn, man, there's so much going on in this movie.
Imposter Batman shows up, the mayor dies, and guess who becomes the mayor? Rupert Thorne.
Oh, okay.
So there's all these guys working together. So Bruce and Silver sees what's going on, and she's like, "I'm disappointed in the Batman," type of thing. I guess Bruce isn't Batman because she sees the imposter Batman and Bruce in the same room.
Okay.
Type of thing. So they get together, and Bruce, you're gonna laugh, decides, "I'm gonna take Silver to the circus."
Okay, here we go.
The execs really wanted to have Robin in the first Batman movie.
Yeah.
We want Batman, Joker, Penguin, and Robin. And all the writers are like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I gotta explain all 4 of these guys.
Right.
So
right.
Imposter Batman shows up again. And Joker shows up and is like, well,
at the circus.
At the circus. And Joker's like, well, Batman's here, so I gotta kill people. And kills the Graysons. And Dick Grayson is like, I want to kill the Batman.
Man, getting convoluted here.
I know. Bruce adopts Dick Grayson at the same time that Batman is basically publicly condemned, because they're just like, you have no faith in the city, like you don't care about the city anymore. You're showing up and everything. You're practically murdering these people and everything, because they make Joker has the imposter Batman be like, I used to care about you guys, but now like you can all go to hell type of thing.
Right.
So it's very much playing that side up. Thorne wants to make a play to get with Silver St. Cloud, so he arranges for Joker to kidnap Silver so he can quote-unquote rescue her and defeat the Batman for good.
Okay.
It's very complicated. This is where like things kind of go off the rails, because beforehand I'm like, okay, everything lines up, and now we're getting into like, okay, there's too many villains. There's Robin now and everything.
It's okay. So I mean, it's hard to tell in these first drafts.
Yeah, and it would have been revised too. Like in the revised version, there was no Penguin at least. But even then, Penguin wasn't really that big. He wasn't really a flaw.
Burton was hard against Robin too, right?
Burton didn't really like Robin. He just didn't understand the idea of Robin or why he needed to be there. He just liked, because Burton's very attracted to outcasts and loners, so he didn't like the idea of Batman.
Dark imagery too. You got a guy in a red suit. He doesn't even like. Yeah. I'm sure he's like red, green, and yellow. That in and of itself, like Burton's not about those colors.
Nope. So Batman decides, hey, I'm going to rescue Silver St. Cloud from this kidnapping thing. And at the same time, Dick Grayson stumbles on the Batcave and overhears Bruce talking to Alfred about what's really going on. And Dick realizes that Batman's not the villain, it's the Joker.
Okay.
Batman goes to rescue Silver St. Cloud, and now we're in full 1940s Dick spraying giant props type stuff. There's a museum with like a giant typewriter and stuff like that.
Really? They pay homage to that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So Joker keeps Silver and Batman hostage on the typewriter, and like every time that Joker shoots a letter, it could like potentially kill him type of thing. Robin shows up to the rescue, and now it's Batman and Robin fighting Joker and everything.
Okay.
Rupert Thorne still wants to rescue Silver. However, in the crossfire, Silver St. Cloud gets shot accidentally. Batman figures out there's this whole other subplot in the second draft where Rupert Thorne, for whatever reason, still has the pearls of Martha Wayne and gives them to Silver St. Cloud. And Bruce sees them on Silver and asks where she got them, and Silver says from Rupert. And Batman puts it together that Rupert Thorne was behind the death of his parents.
Okay.
And he...
Minor detective stuff going on here. Some minor detective.
So he sends Rupert Thorne... This Batman kills again. He sends Rupert Thorne into a giant pencil sharpener where he gets ground up.
What? Really?
Yes. In the original draft... yeah.
I mean, okay, sure.
In the
it
original
would have been fun, I guess.
In the original draft, Silver St. Cloud dies. In the second draft, she lives. I don't really like the idea of her dying, because then it ends on such a downer, dude. And it's like, this is not that type of movie. Like, it's,
right? Yeah, you got people dying in pencil sharpeners and shit.
This
is a very lighthearted film. Yeah.
Joker is still alive at the end, and then Batman and Robin are off for new adventures, and that's how it ends. This like 3-hour Batman movie.
Sounds quite long. Usually the first draft is long, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends. So yeah, the last bit isn't as strong as the rest. The Joker in this version is a little light, honestly, in terms of his personality. Like, he just has a lot of bad jokes. And he kind of works for Rupert Thorne the whole time. So it's not the best version of Joker.
Even at this time, they have Jack Nicholson in mind.
So they asked Tom Mankiewicz like who he had in mind for the casting, and he's like, it's probably go Christopher Reeve with an unknown as Batman, have David Niven as Alfred, William Holden as Gordon, Peter O'Toole as the Penguin. That's interesting. And Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
Right. Peter O'Toole. Wow.
Yeah. Now I kind of, as a little treat for you guys, I kind of fan cast this own movie in terms of like who I would have cast.
Oh yeah, okay, that sounds good. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go in the order of the basically least important roles to most important. This is based off of, these are people who weren't cast in the actual roles later on. Okay. I decided to restrict myself from that because otherwise I'd be cheating. Also, I wanted to pick people who would have realistically been cast. Okay. I'm not going to cast somebody. I'm not going to cast like William Dafoe at a time where William Dafoe wasn't in movies.
Yeah, right. It had to be somebody actually working at the time.
So for Penguin, even though Penguin was cut for the second draft, Mankiewicz wanted Peter O'Toole, but I felt O'Toole was a little old at the time. He's a little too thin. I want a plump Penguin. But I also like the idea of a British actor as Penguin, and I like the idea of kind of doing what they did with Terrence Stamp with Zod, where like it's a dude who's not super well known, but you kind of introduce him in the first one so he can be a villain in the second one.
Right.
So it would have to be somebody who was a British actor who was around at the time in a few movies, but not super well known, who could have made it big. So my Penguin for this draft would be Brian Cox, the original Hannibal Lecter, who I think could have been a really interesting Penguin or a creepy Penguin if need be. For Silver St. Cloud, I was looking for anybody who was like a young star at the time. Daryl Hannah had just done Blade Runner, so I'm just like, sure.
Yeah.
She hadn't done Splash yet. I would have been young at the right age. Rupert Thorne, I originally thought maybe Brando, but Brando had already retired from acting at the time.
Okay.
I thought maybe Orson Welles, but Orson Welles was 68, and him trying to romance Daryl Hannah was not going to happen in my book.
Right.
So my choice is Albert Finney.
Okay.
He was rotund. He can definitely play that type of role. He would have been perfect for the role. You can't have somebody too big as Rupert Thorne because he has to kind of come in under the radar because he's kind of the surprise villain in this. Robin, right off the heels of E.T. and having been cast in The Outsiders, I have C. Thomas Howell as Robin. He would have been 16 at the time. Gordon, Mankiewicz's choices was William Holden, but William Holden died the year after.
Oh my god.
he was his choice. So my choice is Lee Van Cleef.
Okay.
He would have been 58 at the time, has the bushy mustache, kind of played a Gordon type role and escaped from New York. So that's who I'd have in that. Alfred, that's where I'd put Peter O'Toole.
Okay.
This is the biggest role with Alfred in it. Pre-Begins. So
he's pretty important in this movie.
Yeah, because he helps raise Batman and everything, and even after he becomes Batman, he's in almost every scene with Bruce.
Okay.
So you definitely would need a well-known British actor for that. Here's where things get interesting. The Joker. Originally, one of the directors they were looking for was the guy from Gremlins, I think, Joe Dante. And he was more interested in Joker than Batman, which is why he left the project. But his choice for Joker was John Lithgow.
Okay.
At it.
Yeah.
I have a different choice because this Joker, because Mankiewicz wanted, he wanted Lithgow, Mankiewicz wanted Nicholson. This Joker's kind of more comedic.
Yeah.
Yeah, still dangerous. And even though this Joker's supposed to be older than Bruce Wayne, my choice isn't that much older. Honestly, Robin Williams.
Yeah, I
32 at the time.
Yeah.
He had already started in Pop High, so he was already he wasn't as big of a star later on, but he could have done it. He would have been the perfect age, and we've seen in his later work, he can definitely play creepy.
Definitely, yeah. He had the creepy side for sure, yeah.
Which
doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, which leaves Batman. Now, they probably would have gone for an unknown at the time, but I'm like, who would have kind of been an unknown that was on the rise and up and up? You would look for Chris Hemsworth type, where Hemsworth was an unknown, but he was in other stuff beforehand.
Yeah, he was in a Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So at the time, he was 27, also Australian, but technically American. Mel Gibson.
I mean, controversial later on in life.
Controversial later on, but at the time, he would have just been Mad Max, had the square jaw, black hair, and everything. We could have seen Gibson versus Robin Williams in this. That would have been good. My Fancast,
that would have been good.
So that is the Mankiewicz version.
Okay.
Of the Batman.
That was good. I feel like the stuff you said earlier on, I would have kept almost all of that.
Yes.
Some of the later stuff in the script I would maybe have changed.
When it gets a little crowded, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So after the Mankiewicz, the reason why this didn't work is because Burton came on board, and he didn't like the fact that it was so much like Superman the movie.
Okay.
In terms of the structure of it.
Yeah.
He wanted something a little bit more... I don't know. He was more interested in different ways to go about it. But I think he tried to toy around with it because there's a different treatment that he wrote with his girlfriend at the time, Julie Hickson.
Burton wrote a script?
Burton wrote a treatment.
Really?
And it also starts with the death of the Waynes. It also does the origin thing.
Yeah.
The main difference is they're all at a... It's very Burton-esque, it feels like. They all go to a costume party where Thomas Wayne is in a bat suit.
That's the sign of somebody that doesn't know the comics very well. That's what that feels like.
Thomas Wayne dies in a bat suit.
Really?
Yes.
See, that people would have been up in fucking arms, dude.
Well, I mean, they're trying to go off of there's an old comic, and it's in Untold Legend of the Batman, where Thomas Wayne did go to a party dressed in a bat suit. And rescue a mobster who was the mobster who hired Joe Chill to kill him. So they were saying that technically Thomas Wayne was the first Batman, which is probably why they do the whole Flashpoint Batman thing now.
Yeah.
It's because of a tribute to that story.
What the fuck, man? So Burton actually was referencing comics then.
He was referencing a lot of stuff. Like Uslan did say in The Boy Loved Batman that he gave Burton a lot of the original Bob Kane run, the Steve Englehart stuff. But you can definitely see the influence of not necessarily Mankiewicz, but ideas that would come up in the later movie. So they get killed not by a mugger, but an ice cream truck comes by, and a 17-year-old Joker kills them. And you're left with this creepy image of Bruce Wayne over the bodies of his parents as the ice cream truck drives off with this sort of music box type music playing off as it goes off.
That music that's always at that's
in an ice cream truck.
Ice cream truck music, yeah.
I kind of when I first read that, I was picturing like the Joker theme from the Elfman Joker theme from the movie. You know, when they're doing that whole waltz thing at the end of the cathedral.
I can see this like slow motion. It's going away.
So
the Joker's smiling in the truck.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there's that, but it's way too fucking crowded. Like it's only 80 something pages, but not only does it have Batman, it also has Robin in it because I think he was forced to do it. He's described as a pale-skinned, at the point of ghostly, defined by an alert little face and carrot-colored hair, sort of a new wave artful dodger. That doesn't sound like the original Robin at all, but that's kind of like...
Why can't they just follow the fucking comic, man?
And also, in Robin's origin, Joker shows up, but he's there with Penguin, Riddler, and Catwoman. And it's Catwoman who puts the acid on the ropes for the trapeze. So
what? Why?
I don't know. He was trying to fit.
I know she's gray area, but Jesus.
In it. Honestly, some of the best stuff though is Gordon has a big role in this, which is weird because he doesn't have a big role at all in the movies.
Right.
Gordon is like a family friend. He sees Bruce as like a second son. Gives him a lot of advice and guidance, but doesn't know that Bruce is also Batman. And the ending is Bruce Wayne beating up Joker at the point of almost killing him, but then Gordon is the one who stops him.
Bruce Wayne does.
Sorry, it's Batman. It's Batman trying to beat up Joker, and it's Gordon who pretty much stops him.
Okay.
Which feels like it's right out of Hush, even though Hush wasn't even written at the time.
It's not a bad idea. That part's good, I think.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just summarizing these real quick because it was like a very short 80-page thing.
This wasn't This wasn't based on Mankiewicz at all. They were like, hey,
I think
make something completely different.
It reads like he was trying to fuse his ideas with Mankiewicz's ideas because I don't think he really was that into doing an origin. He wasn't that into doing Robin, but it's like, okay, if they're forcing me to do it, here's how I would do it, and it's really fucking crowded. And there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of stuff you see in the early drafts that did make it to the original film or later drafts. So, like in the Mankiewicz version, Joker blows up a television.
Okay.
It was in the final movie.
Yeah.
In the treatment stuff that you see Joker flying off in a like rocket Christmas tree, which is like in that animated cartoon of Christmas with the Joker. Joker tries to do the whole like
pretty funny actually.
Joker tries to do the whole like I want to become mayor type of thing, which is what Penguin would do in Batman Returns.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of shit in this that like it's like the ideas individually are good, but if you put it in one movie, it's a fucking mess.
Yeah. So you're saying that overall this is a little bit worse than Mankiewicz's?
It was way worse than Mankiewicz's. This is one where I'm just like, I'm not going to bother fan casting this because this doesn't really feel like it's a real effort from Burton on what he really wanted to do. It feels more like, okay, if I'm forced to put in Robin and stuff, here's how I would try to do it.
You read this beginning to end.
I did read it beginning. It's only 80 pages. It's not necessarily a slog. It's just more like this doesn't work as a movie. This would be like a 3-hour movie that would be such a mess.
There's no arc to anything, or
I mean, there's a vague one of the usual stuff of Bruce becoming Batman and things like that, but that's about it.
Right.
Afterwards, they're like, we can't get this to work, so let's go right to the source. And they went right to Steve Englehart, the writer of Laughing Fish.
Okay.
And they're like, let's have you do your take. So he did 2 treatments. I've only read excerpts of them because they're on his website. But what's interesting...
Full versions are not up.
Steve, if you're out there, I would love to read it. What's interesting is that his take on... So he has one version where Joker kills the Graysons. Shocker. And he has another version that starts off with the Wayne murders, and after the Wayne murders, the person who comforts him at the funeral is Jim Gordon.
Okay.
Now, this seems like, okay, no shit, but you got to keep in mind at the time that wasn't a thing.
Okay, they're adding to the mythos.
This was not in, like, Begins had it, but that was late. That was Begins. Gotham built a whole TV show around it, but this was the first time I can ever track of Gordon actually being around at the time of the Waynes being killed.
Hey everybody, it's Andrew. I just wanted to tell you about our friend Israel's retro gaming shop, RetroCo. If you go to retro-ko.com, you'll be able to see all of his retro gaming goodies. If you wanted to get that Sega Saturn hidden gem from back in the day, or if you wanted to get the Famicom disk system that you never got as a kid, or any other type of retro game that you were into, or import game, please go to retroco.com. That's retro-ko.com. And if you use the Superhouse code Johnson's Ballsack, you'll be able to get a little bit of a discount at checkout. So please, once again, if you could just go to retroco.com. You can also go to facebook.com/retroco with no hyphen. That's RETROKO. You'll be able to find him on Facebook as well. If you were looking for that PlayStation import game that you never got, if you were looking for that Mega Drive game that you never got, or any other kind of retro game, any import game, it could even be European, Israel also curates bundles at RetroCo, and he'll curate that bundle just for you. So please, go check him out. If you put in the code Johnson's Ballsack at checkout, you'll receive a Superhouse discount.
And then it ends kind of where Joker's facing off against Batman and Robin, and he gets electrocuted on, like, they're like in a Ferris wheel, and Joker gets electrocuted and falls in the water, but it's like left open that maybe he's still alive.
Okay.
And then Silver St. Cloud does her whole speech to Batman that she does at the end of Sign of the Joker, where she's like, I know you're Bruce Wayne and everything, but I can't picture the man I love, like, not knowing if he'll come back alive and everything like that.
So Silver St. Cloud became Vicky Vale.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Steve Englehart claims that they basically used his treatments without giving him any credit and turned Silver St. Cloud into Vicky Vale and turned Rupert Thorne into Carl Grissom.
Gotcha. Okay.
Here are my thoughts on that. Vicky Vale was in the comics way earlier than Silver St. Cloud.
Okay.
And the version that's in the movie is kind of like it's still very much like there's very little of Silver St. Cloud in the actual movie, other than the fact that she figures out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. But to be honest, I don't think that's that unique to Silver St. Cloud. I think any Hollywood screenwriter would have put that into the love subplot into the movie. You know,
I know I'm definitely not the first person to ever think this, but it's definitely like she harkens back to Lois Lane. She's got an alliterative name, and she was a fucking reporter.
Of course, yeah, she was absolutely the Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Of the Batman.
Was he his first love interest in the comics?
Julie Madison was.
Julie Madison, okay.
Which who showed up in Batman and Robin, but less said about the better.
Wow. Side note on a cultural tangent here, but I one time showed the Nolan trilogy to some Japanese friends of mine, and they had never seen, I don't think, any Batman movie before at all.
Yeah.
And they said going into it that they thought that Batman was a stoic character that like didn't have sex, and I was like, you are wrong about that one.
So wrong.
Yeah. Batman fucks, man.
Yeah. So, can you still hear me?
Yeah. I can.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'm showing Andrew now from the original Bob Kane, one of the Julie Madison, Bob Kane and Bill Finger. Julie Madison is in the Batmobile with Batman and is wondering why Batman won't talk to her, which is basically what was in the Descent into Mystery drive up to the Batcave type of thing. These comics were...
You won't tell me a thing.
Yeah, well, obviously they didn't give that dialogue to Kim Basinger.
Yeah,
but you can't deny that this was an influence on it. There's a lot of different images and imagery that they put in the final movie, because Uslan was very much like, I don't want the Adam West Batman. I want the Bob Kane, Bill Finger Batman type of thing.
Yeah,
in this.
Yeah. That's totally what he was going for, yeah.
Harking back to Steve Englehart, Carl Grissom and Rupert Thorne, I'm just like... Okay, I mean, Carl Grissom's character was described as fat in the original script. Jack Palance is a lot thinner than that, but other than that, I'm just like, okay, they're both mob bosses. You could maybe stretch it that, like, in the comics, Rupert Thorne thinks that he's killed Hugo Strange, and then Hugo Strange supposedly comes back from the dead to haunt him, just like Jack Napier comes back from the dead to haunt Carl Grissom. But again, I'm just like, I don't really think you need to, like... You could have called him Rupert Thorne, or you could have not called him Rupert Thorne, but he's not so obviously Rupert Thorne that, you know, it bothers me. Lieutenant Eckhart seems to be loosely based off of Bullock.
Yeah.
Because Bullock started off as a corrupt cop working for Thorne in the comics.
Right.
But again, I'm just like, I don't really mind that they changed the name so much. Englehart claims that, they use my arc for the movie, but there's not really enough in there.
So much of an arc going on in the final film anyway.
Yeah. So I don't agree with him. I mean, look, I reread his comic recently on DC Universe, and it's iconic stuff. It's great stuff, but it's also not really in '89. So he claims that his other more recent stuff was ripped off in Dark Knight. I didn't really agree with that either, because I've read both that and everything. I'm like, look, you guys, your stuff is fine. Stuff is great on its own. So are the movies. Like, there's going to be some crossovers here and there. So
yeah.
I don't agree with that. So those are all the ones leading up to the Sam Hamm vision, which is going to be the most interesting one for you, because you just saw the movie.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to go into all the stuff. Okay. But it depends on how much time we have. Do you think we should split this and put this into another episode?
How long do you think it'll take?
Probably just as long as me talking about Mankiewicz.
That wasn't too long.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay, and
let's get it all.
Worst comes to worst, you can just edit it.
It's a long episode, maybe. Well, let's just see how it goes. I'm willing to just fucking power through if you can.
Okay, cool. So Sam Hamm was hired by Burton. Burton's like, I don't want to do the origin, and Hamm's like, I agree with you. I don't want to do the origin because I don't think you need to have the audience sit through 30 minutes to an hour to wait for him to put on a bat suit. Ironically, since that's what would end up happening in Batman Begins, one of the greatest Batman movies. But anyway, that wasn't made at the time.
Right.
He was very much, if Burton was Nolan, Hamm was Goyer, as the guy who knew the Batman mythos and had an idea of where to go with it. And his pitch to Burton was, Batman's a lunatic. He's insane.
Right.
What happens if he becomes sane? So if you read the original script, it starts out almost exactly the same as the movie.
Okay.
But there's some cool images that start cropping up. So, there's one image where the muggers on the rooftop, they're, firing at Batman, and the guy's so scared that he keeps firing even though there's nothing in the chamber. And you just hear click, 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 click.
Yeah.
And Batman pulls him up, and as he pulls him close to his face, all the mugger sees reflected back to him is his own reflection, because Batman's got the lenses.
Oh, shit.
And so he sees his own fear back at him.
The white lenses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Batman in the original draft, he just tells the mugger, tell your friends, tell all your friends, and he just throws him off, and that's it. Not throws him off the roof, but throws him back on.
Right.
later on in a later draft, it was like the guy being like, you know, you don't own the night, and Batman says, tell all your friends, I am the night, and then throws him off. There was no I'm Batman. Keaton apparently came up with that on the set, which...
Well, it's not a hard thing to come up with, I know.
But, I mean, also, it kind of kickstarted the whole... I don't think there was a whole, you know, I'm Batman type of meme type thing at the time before that.
It even carries over into Endgame where he says, I am Iron Man.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I don't know. I could see that being a very organic thing.
So
maybe they didn't think about that at first because they thought it would be too on the nose.
Maybe it's a possibility, but that's all he says. Tell your friends. Tell all your friends. We still have the Harvey Dent scene, and then afterwards we meet Jack Napier, who is said to be 32 years old.
Okay,
not Jack Nicholson.
Right.
He's said to be almost feminine in features. Not Jack Nicholson.
Right.
Supposed to be a pretty boy. Everybody says like, oh, like you're a pretty boy. Everything's like that. Like look at Jack. That sort of thing. So vain. I'm like, that's not really... When I first read this, I'm like, really? Okay.
Seemingly more like Joaquin. A little bit. Not that he's super feminine, but he's definitely a lot skinnier.
Right. But yeah, same stuff plays out still and everything. When Alexander Knox is introduced, and again, originally seems like he does in the movie, but he turns into a very different character, and you'll see why. He goes into the Gotham Globe, he meets with Vicky Vale. There's a reporter there in glasses named Clark at one point. It's an interesting Easter egg. But
that's pretty funny.
In the original version, Vicky Vale and Alexander Knox already know each other.
Okay.
In the movie, they just meet, but they already have an established working relationship, and it's kind of already hinted that he's already kind of been in love with her, type of thing. She's described as a redhead, just like in the comics, and she even has a scar from her time in the Corto Maltese.
Oh shit! Okay.
She has more of a quick-talking personality type, very different from the Kim Basinger version. So this is already a more interesting version of Vicky Vale. By the time, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's actually the...
Oh, okay.
Okay, it was the cable here.
Grissom shows up, is all worried about Harvey Dent.
Is Grissom in the comics at all?
Grissom's not in the comics.
Okay.
Grissom was who they made up, and that's why Englehart's like, that's Carl Grissom doesn't exist. He was Rupert Thorne. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Grissom, and this is Hamm doing the whole Easter eggy thing, says he's worried about connections to Councilman Kane and Senator Miller. References to Bob Kane and Frank Miller.
No Bill Finger.
No Bill Finger in there, because I don't know if Hamm knew about Bill Finger at the time.
Probably did not.
Yeah.
Sadly.
I
think he'll come back on. Thank you.
The Manor Party still happens. However, we don't see Bruce Wayne. There's no like Vicky Vale meeting Bruce Wayne. Like, do you know which one of these guys is Bruce Wayne? I don't know. Like, that's not in there.
Okay.
We start with Alexander Knox and Vicky in the room, and it's Knox who's like, he must be the most worthless man in America. And then you hear a voice say, you surprise me. Why not the world? And they turn around, they see it's Bruce Wayne, and he's described as like impeccably handsome, muscles upon muscles. He's also 32 years old. Like, again, I'm just like, that's not really Michael Keaton.
Right.
And he's not like the final version at all. He's smooth. He's suave.
Yeah.
He's very much of the Playboy version. He's like, you know, Knox does the whole, like, you know, in the movie, he's like, hey, I like your work. And Knox is like, can you give me a grant? And in the original script, he's like, well, I will if you introduce me to Miss Vale.
Okay.
So, like, it's a very different personality. Same stuff happens where he goes to Ace Chemicals. Again, it's Ace Chemicals in the original script. It's changed to Axis, which is against the comics in the movie, but whatever. And he has different gadgets in the original. He has talons that are laced with toxin that knocks people out. He uses a billy club, like Daredevil at one point, but only like in one sequence. It's all like one-offs. It's not like something he uses throughout. He has like a shuriken at one point, and like it's all different, which they actually made. I saw in like a magazine.
That, to me, the shuriken is... I wouldn't put it past him on that one.
Yeah. No,
the only thing is that would maybe not kill, but, you know, that's pretty violent. I don't know.
Right.
But, yeah, I think I can see that. The billy club I don't see, though.
Yeah. So he goes all out for this date with Vicky. It's not the whole... You know, we were watching the whole dining table one where he was like, I don't think I've ever been here in my life.
Yeah.
It's not like that at all. It is a, like, all out. They are on a yacht named Die Fledermaus, which is...
Oh,
means
my
the bat.
God.
Yeah. It's a little over the top. But he's just extremely charming and almost like too much, and to the point where Vicky's like, "Is this even real?" type of thing. Take her to the opera, where like the opera singers are all like, "Is that Bruce Wayne?" and are all like jealous of Vicky. Then back to Wayne Manor.
It's like Nolan type shit.
Yeah,
now.
Yeah. Vicky takes a sip of Bruce's drink and finds out he's drinking ginger ale because he's like, "I don't drink. One drink and I'm jumping off the rooftops."
It's interesting because I feel like Bruce Wayne would drink, right? He does drink sometimes, right?
It depends. I mean, you would think Bruce Wayne, the billionaire playboy, would drink, but him being Batman, he wouldn't want that to mess with.
Like there's that shot in that scene in that like roof or like high-rise building or whatever in The Dark Knight where he almost takes a sip, but then he just throws it
off, yeah.
Yeah, and I always thought that was pretty cool because I wasn't as familiar with the source material at the time when I saw that as I am now, and that's interesting. I never really thought about like how he just pretty much
because he's
not totally against it, but he's definitely not about drinking.
Yeah, he would have to go out,
Yeah,
like he would. He doesn't want that to impede his system at all.
Yeah.
Joker still does the whole bandages thing, and the thing is, Sam Hamm admitted that his version of Joker is basically the Two-Face origin.
Okay.
There's a vain guy who gets disfigured. Even if you look at the original Two-Face comic, it has a literal scene of the Doctor and then undoing the bandages and being like, "This is what you look like. What does it look like in the mirror?"
Yeah.
Like that's actually in Two-Face. Jack shows up and Grissom is pleading with him, Jack, and he's like, "I don't look like a Jack anymore. You made me a Joker." And he takes off the thing, and that's the reveal. And this still kills Joker. Oh yeah, and the final part of that. Because in the final movie, he's like, "Call me Joker," and you can see I'm a lot happier, and he just shoots him. In this version, Grissom's like, "Jack, take that goddamn smile off your face," because he's creeped out by it. And Joker's like, "That's the best part. I can't." And then he kills him.
That's good. I like that.
The next morning, instead of the whole scene in the movie where Vicky wakes him up and is like, "Yeah, why don't we do something next weekend," or something like that, she catches Bruce singing in the shower, and she sees all these bruises on his body, type of thing. So like different clues. Alexander Knox, in the meantime, is jealous of what's going on, and he looks into what's going on with Bruce, and he finds out. He tries to dig up dirt, and he can't find any dirt because Bruce Wayne hasn't had his photo taken since he was a kid.
Okay,
which seems weird to him, so he starts digging more. Vicky and Bruce don't do this whole phone tag thing of just like, "Oh, like we had a one-night stand, I'm in love with you, but you won't call me back," type of thing. They are dating. They're full on dating. And they go off to, on one of their dates is when one of the mobster and his men get killed. There's no mime sequence. They get killed. They get caught in like the revolving door of a hotel or something, just like in The Godfather, that type of thing. Bruce literally throws Vicky into this fountain for safety and is visibly looking around, trying to find a spot to change.
Okay.
And he doesn't realize, and he sees the mimes killing people and then mimicking the terrified people and things like that. And he's just clearly like having a panic attack and stuff because he can't change into the suit. And Vicky's wondering what's going on, and Bruce just kind of just ignores her and runs off, type of thing.
Okay.
And when Vicky goes over to see Alexander Knox, Knox is like, "Well, I have an explanation for that. Your boyfriend's Batman."
Okay.
So this is where Knox becomes a completely different character.
Okay.
Because she's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And this is when Knox shows the picture of young Bruce Wayne. It's like his parents were killed and everything. That's young Jim Gordon as the beat cop. I bet you anything Gordon even knows that Bruce is Batman and is helping out and everything. Everything adds up. And Vicky doesn't really want to believe it over here. Vicky then goes off. At one point, Vicky goes to a photo shoot, and the models at that photo shoot start laughing and then die from the Smilex stuff. So those models that you see in the movie where the reporters are just like, "These models died," there's actually going to be a sequence where we would see them get killed.
That's cool.
In the movie, it says like 6 people died from cosmetic poisoning. In the original script that Hamm had, it was 72 in the first day.
Okay, yeah.
So it would have been fucking... This Joker had a high body count. As I said before, Joker goes to find Vicky in the museum, just like in the movie. However, he's not in love with her. He just wants her to document his reign of terror around the Gotham City. And Vicky's like, "Okay, well, like, it's good to see the face behind the makeup." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" Because he's wearing the the flesh-colored makeup.
Yeah.
So he actually makes her throw the water in his face.
Okay.
Instead of the movie where he does the whole Wizard of Oz thing, he makes her do it so that she gets to see and everything because he thinks that she'll appreciate that. Let's see. The same thing happens. Batman shows up to the rescue. There's the whole alley fight, except in this version, when the thugs shoot him down, they actually succeed in taking off his mask.
Okay. All right.
And they're like, do you know who this guy is? We don't know who this guy is.
Yeah, right.
And Bruce actually fights off the thugs without a mask.
Okay.
And he's so fast that nobody can do it. And Vicky's trying to take pictures of it.
Okay.
And she's like, I can't really see it, but maybe if I zoom in on the photos, I can see. So Batman spends the rest of the sequence trying to get the photos.
Okay.
So he bargains with her about like, hey, why don't I take you to the back? Why don't you take me back to where I'm at, and I'll develop those photos for you.
Okay.
When in reality, he just wants those photos. So they get to the Batcave, and this is where it's really different. He removes parts of his costume, and Vicky starts seeing some familiar bruises on his body. It's almost as if Bruce is trying to tell her that he's Batman, but he can't, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so she starts asking questions. She's like, "Why do you wear such a big yellow symbol on your chest if you're trying to do stealth?" And he's like, "Well, it's so that people don't shoot me in the head," which is right out of Dark Knight Returns.
Right.
Vicky's like, "How did you find this place?" And Bruce is like, "I found it when I was a boy." Mind you, this is around the same time that Dark Knight Returns came out, with that idea. And he says flat out, he says, "They used to terrify me, but I forced myself to keep coming back, and I guess I became what I feared the most."
Yeah. That's like, that was...
It's like Begins, right?
Good stuff. Yeah. I like that.
He's hinted that he's hacked into the FBI to help him on the Joker case and develops the photos for Vicky. But he's a little bit more talkative than the version of Batman in the movie. But she starts seeing familiar beats of it, and it basically tells her, okay, this is obvious. This is Bruce Wayne and everything. And when he knocks her out to take her home, she elects to do that.
Right.
In the movie, there's those undertones of like, did he do something to her? But in this one, she likes to knock herself out because he's like, I can't like let you know where, how we got here,
right?
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
So she has that agency to do that. So I'm sure the girls reading this or listening to this would appreciate that.
Yeah.
And when she gets knocked out, she has a dream about Bruce's parents, and this replaces that flashback.
Okay.
Of Bruce's parents getting killed. In Hamm's version, it was never the flashback of "you killed my parents" because Joker was the same age as Bruce. She sees Bruce's parents getting killed, and then she sees Bruce Wayne being hugged by Officer Gordon, except his face is turned away. And then she sees Bruce and young Gordon sort of look at her, almost like threatened or angry at her, and she realizes that she's in the dream the one taking the picture. The iconic picture of Bruce and young Gordon. And then she wakes up and she's like, okay, absolutely, obviously Bruce is Batman, type of thing. Joker sends the whole stock market into turmoil. We see Bruce and Wayne Foundation and everything, tries to talk to Vicky as Batman over the phone until someone walks in and calls him Bruce. It was kind of a funny beat. But at that point, he knows that she knows. At that point, Harvey and Gordon talk to the mayor because at this point Joker has killed 786 people.
Jesus, with Smilex.
With Smilex. And so the mayor tries to negotiate with the Joker through the TV. And the mayor is like, we'll give you $10 million. And Joker is like, $10 million? And then he yells, you cheapskates, I've just wiped out the stock market. I cost you billions. And then he calms down a bit and he's like, I want 10 million and one. So it was almost like the Mark Hamill type of personality.
Yeah.
With this Joker. But everyone's like, okay, how do we stop this guy? And finds out like he doesn't care about money, he doesn't care about anything, type of thing. And Alexander Knox sees this, and he goes to Wayne Manor, and he says on the intercom like, "Hey, I'm here to see Bruce Wayne." And Alfred says, "Bruce, Master Wayne's not here." And Knox says, "Okay, I'm here to say Batman." And he and nothing happens. And he walks away, and and behind him the gates of Wayne Manor start opening, and he shows up in the house. And he tells Bruce, hey, I know your secret, and you need to stop being Batman, and you need to stop seeing Vicky Vale, or I'm going to reveal your secret. And basically blackmails Bruce Wayne. And he's like, what kind of future do you think you're even going to have with her? Like, what, you guys going to have like little bat children and things like that? Like,
okay.
And Bruce is like, why are you doing this? And Knox is like, because I've always been in love with her, type of thing. And Knox is kind of set up as like, if Batman didn't exist, she would be with Knox.
Okay.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
So Bruce then goes to Vicky's apartment as kind of like a goodbye sort of thing, because he wants to agree with.
And this was rewritten in the scene where he was about to tell her,
right? But
who
in
he was.
In the original version, she already knew.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, I gotta do this, and she's like, why do you? And everything, you know, I'm devoted to the city. Then a package arrives.
Okay, yeah.
And Bruce is like, I gotta examine it, and he pulls out the utility belt, and she's like, you brought that? And he's like, I feel naked without it, just like you feel naked without a camera. And he opens it up, and it's full of wax ears or something like that, and like there's a message with it. And basically the Joker it's a sign saying like, hey, like get ready with your camera because I'm coming, because I want you to document what I'm gonna do.
Right.
So Bruce uses the utility belt weapons on the thugs who are coming for her, and then he takes one of Vicky Vale's nylons, puts it over his face, and starts chasing after the truck that Joker's in. And he steals like a cop's horse and goes on horseback to go after it. And meets up with Alfred, who tosses him the bat suit. He gets changed to the bat suit, and now it's Batman on horseback chasing after Joker. There's a whole new action sequence in this that wasn't in it before, which then leads to Joker heading towards, you know, there's this whole Gotham birthday anniversary celebration thing. There's a circus act.
Okay, here we go. They wanted Robin right
really
to the very end, huh?
They did, and Sam, Hamm, and Burton were like, how the hell do we put this in? Because this doesn't really fit our story.
Right.
This is the best they could do. So Joker crashes into a fireworks truck, and the fireworks basically set off right onto the trapeze act. And that's what causes the Graysons to fall to their death. Dick Grayson wants revenge on the Joker immediately, tries to go after them. And Batman basically tries to stop this hostile kid. And Joker then brings up, like, well, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be doing any of this. And Batman's like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, don't you recognize me? I'm Jack Napier. Because Batman, this version didn't know. And now Batman is like riddled with guilt in the fact that he created the Joker.
Okay, yeah.
So
that's good.
He realizes that they're the same person. He adopts Dick Grayson in Wayne Manor, and then he goes to Harvey Dent.
Okay.
And he tells Harvey, like, you gotta, like, he's at Ace Chemicals. This is where he's doing all this stuff. You need to go in. And Dent's like, how am I supposed to tell people that, like, some billionaire playboy knows all this stuff? I don't have your quote-unquote expert sources, which is a subtle clue that maybe Harvey Dent knows that Bruce is Batman, too, in this.
Worst kept secret in Gotham at this point.
I know, in this version, at least.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson tries to leave Wayne Manor. Bruce Wayne's like, you can't because you're going to get yourself killed trying to kill the Joker. And so Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne fight in Wayne Manor. And Alfred hears the ruckus and bursts into the room with a gun.
Jesus.
And Dick sees what's going on, and he sees how Bruce has fought, and he's like, oh, now I know who you are, type of thing.
Oh, my God. So everybody's figuring it out.
Everyone's figuring it out. And Joker has this whole, I don't remember if it's a telecast or anything, but he's speaking about like how he's going to keep remaking Gotham in his image because he was disfigured, so he's trying to disfigure everyone else. And he's speaking to a whole room full of corpses. Everybody's dead. It's not just the dude he electrocuted in the final movie. It's a whole room full of them. One corpse like falls over, and he's like, "Look, we got them all rolling in the aisles."
Oh my God! That's creepy enough. That's cool. Yeah. I like that.
Bruce sleeps with Vicky one last time, and admits his guilt and feeling like, you know, he's like, I felt like I never really was Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne was something I inherited, type of thing. And now I have to do what I got to do. So he goes down to the Batcave, and he makes this device as like a timer, and he tells Alfred, he's like, you know, you need to raise this kid the way that you raised me, type of thing. And Alfred seems like he's on the verge of tears because Batman at this point is going on a suicide mission to take down the Joker. And he thanks Alfred at the end. He doesn't specify what for, but you can kind of guess what that is. And he has this weird scene of like the timer's going off, and he's like meditating. He's almost like his process. Keaton even filmed a version of this, he said, where he's like has to do this meditation to become Batman. And he's
that would be very interesting footage to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's like, he has that meditation. The timer comes up, and his eyes open, but they're the eyes of someone else. And then you cut to Ace Chemicals, where Batman attacks with a Batmobile. Except in the original script, apparently, when he's about to blow it up, he gives the thugs some time to run out before it gets blown up.
Would have made a lot more sense.
Yes, it would have.
It would have been a lot better that way, yeah.
The celebration continues, except it's not a parade. It's just like it's the unveiling of the Lady Gotham statue, which is kind of like the Statue of Liberty, except it has a Joker grin on it.
Okay, yeah, that would have been awesome, yeah.
Knox and Vicky are in the crowd, and they realize like all these balloons have like this gas in it and things like that. We have to tell Batman because Batman's coming in the Batwing and everything. What do we do? And Knox is like, I got an idea. So he crashes into, he loots this one store with a cape, and he goes to a spotlight and he puts the cape over the spotlight. And Batman's flying the Batwing, and he sees one of the spotlights has his symbol on it, the bat symbol on it, and that's Knox creates the bat signal in the original version.
Like what in the Burton one, I always thought it was like a little bit unnecessary almost that he goes so far high to where the Batwing is in front of the moon, because he's already let go of the balloons and shit at this point. This is straight up.
I think he's just trying to gain momentum or something.
Is that what it was?
I think that's what it was, because he was trying to zoom back in or something. I don't know. But
with free fall, but for what purpose though?
I don't know. But in the original version, it's very different. Like I don't think that even happens.
Yeah.
In it, but Knox does the signal. Batman knows where to go, and then Joker catches Knox doing that, and he sends the thugs. So the thugs shoot after Knox. Knox goes into Vicky's car. Vicky drives away, and Knox is exhilarated because he's like, I can't believe I just did that. This must be what Bruce Wayne feels like. And then he starts coughing up blood, and he realizes he's been shot, and he dies in front of her. So Knox kind of has his own full arc, almost, of becoming an anti-hero and then redeeming himself in a way.
Okay.
Very different from the final movie.
Yeah.
Joker emerges then through one of the float. He emerges with a tank. And
that would have been kind of interesting to see like a Joker tank versus the Batwing.
Yeah, and it's the tank in the original version that shoots down the Batwing.
It makes more sense than that fucking gun. Like I know that's a fun gun, but to take down a whole plane, like that gun looks like it's just like a regular gun with regular bullets with a long barrel. That's all it is.
Yeah, no, seriously. So he shoots down the Batwing. Batwing crashes. Thugs are about to attack the Batwing and make sure Batman's dead until they hear a voice say "Yo," and they turn around. And it's
Yo?
It says it's literally
Robin,
Yo.
Yeah,
it's Robin.
Yeah, okay.
And Robin takes them out. Doesn't kill them. He just knocks them out, and he helps Batman out of the Batwing, and he steals one of the. But Batman is like really fucked up right now because of the crash.
Okay. Yeah.
And Robin's like, "Hold on, right here. I'm going to end this," and he takes the gun from one of the thugs. And Batman's like, "You can't." And Robin's like, "Try to stop me." And so he shoots after the Joker in the cathedral. But Batman throws one of the shurikens at him, and which was laced with like a thing to knock him out. And so Robin falls unconscious. And
I like that.
Yeah.
I like this part.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Joker is basically like, all right, I need to get out of here, have the helicopter meet me at the top of the cathedral because all these people are converging on the cathedral because they saw me go in. Again, not in the final film, but it makes more sense.
Yeah, this is cool. Yeah, I like this. Yeah.
Batman is so fucking fucked up. Like, he goes unconscious. He nearly falls to his death and everything. And Joker ends up finding his unconscious body. And it's like, oh, look at this. And he drags him up. And again, the Vicky Vale was not in the cathedral.
Right.
The final version. Look at this. And he unmasks him. And he says, oh, Brucey, you're the rich boy, aren't you? And he says, we're both murderers. And Batman's like, I'm not a murderer like you. And Joker's like, really, think of all the people you've killed by letting me live.
So they're introducing that whole idea
way
in the beginning.
Yeah, it's a paraphrase of The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
And Joker's like, all right, it's nighty night, and he's about to kill him. And Batman is like, kind of like, not so fast. And he sees that timer device that he was using earlier. He's starting it. And Joker sees it and realizes it's a bomb. And Batman's going to blow up both him and Joker.
Okay.
And Joker panics and starts running around. Batman's like, what? No sense of humor now?
Yeah.
Because now it's Batman, the one who's laughing.
Right.
And it's Joker, the one who's freaking out. And Joker sees the helicopter. And he's like, he rushes for the helicopter. But as he rushes for the helicopter, Batman initiates a device that has the bats come out of the belfry. And the bats swarm around Joker. And they cause the Joker to fall to his death.
Wow. Okay.
And Batman has the timer, has the bomb, and he has a choice whether he wants to continue living because he's already defeated the Joker. Can he still live? Can he still have a chance at an ordinary life with Vicky? And he makes his choice. He decides he wants to live, so he throws the bomb at the helicopter, and the helicopter explodes, and we cut to Joker on the ground, and he's dying, and he's got the smile on his face as he sees fireworks in the sky from the bomb of the helicopter blowing up.
Yeah.
And then the smile fades as he dies. The shooting script was a little different. The shooting script had Joker not fall because of the bats. It had Joker nearly about to fall because of the bats in the helicopter and Batman rushing after him. And Joker pulls that, it seems like he's about to fall, and he grabs Batman, and he's like, and he says, because in the final script there was the whole dance with the devil with a pale new light.
Yeah.
He grabs Batman and he says, "I saved the last dance for you." And he brings both of them off the cathedral.
Oh shit.
And he's laughing as they're both going down.
Oh shit.
And Batman has to use the grappling. They're basically fighting, and Batman has to save himself with a grappling hook.
Okay.
Which I thought would have been pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, that would have been better, yeah.
Yeah. So both of these would have been better. Vicky Vale leaves flowers at Knox's grave and says, "I loved you too." And at Wayne Manor, Bruce Wayne is recuperating at the pool because he got really fucked up from the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Vicky Vale says, you saved everyone. Well, nearly everyone of Knox and everything. And Bruce is like, this might sound insane, but you saved me, type of thing. So it kind of fulfills Hamm's intention of having it so that Bruce Wayne is a guy who's insane, who turns sane, sort of it, and wants to live at the end. It's hinted at the end what Dick Grayson's future is because he's in the Batcave and he sees these suspended bars above like the chasm. Okay. And he jumps and he basically starts training. And at the end, the bat signal is a real thing, and it's Batman and Robin standing over the city.
Okay.
So other than the Robin stuff, though, like,
yeah,
it's a different version of Joker. Bruce Wayne is way more fleshed out.
Right.
Vicky Vale's a much more interesting character.
Right.
Alexander Knox has more of a purpose to be in it.
Right.
But that's the original vision. That was the original version.
But they were like that's that scene where, just to go back to the scene where he's about to reveal that he's Batman to Vicky Vale, that was written the day of, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah, because it was never really supposed to be that.
Right.
As you can see, the original version of that was him saying goodbye to Vicky because Knox was kind of blackmailing him, and he everything was going against him. He didn't really know what to do.
Right. So
very different. I'm going to fancast this one as well.
Okay. Let's do it.
This version of Robin is very much the rebellious type. Someone around 17 or 18. Perfect age for it at the time. River Phoenix.
Yeah.
Pre-Indiana Jones Last Crusade. Alexander Knox. Again, this version is someone who you would have to see as like the leading man if Batman didn't exist, type of thing. My version of Vicky and Bruce are very young, so I'll go with someone young, and I picked Emilio Estevez because he's someone who has the dramatic chops, can play the comedic side
for Knox,
for this version of Knox, who
has
that arc and stuff, and isn't just the comic relief that Robert Wool's version had.
Okay.
Harvey Dent. Burton cast Billy D. Williams because he hinted in the commentary in '89 that he had the idea that when the acid hit Dent's face, it would make his skin turn white on that side.
Yeah.
So you'd have a black and white thing, and I kind of like that idea.
Yeah.
I feel like Burton would have still cast an African-American actor. So if I were to cast someone other than Billy D. in 1987 or so, Denzel.
Yeah.
He was a breakout star of St. Elsewhere in '82. The part of Dent was small enough that WB probably wouldn't have cared about giving it to his TV actor without really knowing that he would need to be the main villain in a future one.
Right.
And Denzel was around like 33 or so he would have been the perfect age. Gordon was a small part. It was a really small part, so I wasn't going to cast anybody like Eastwood or anything like that. You need someone who was like a veteran, but not like a headliner at the time, which is what Pat Hingle was. This is a little left field, but I got Dick Van Dyke.
Okay.
But this is like Diagnosis Murder Dick Van Dyke.
But not with the Mary Poppins British accent.
No, not the Mary Poppins version. This is the Diagnosis, like the white-haired dude and everything.
So not a... Okay, gotcha.
He's not in it that much. At one point, he's like smoking a cigar and things like that, but he's not that different from what we saw in the final movie.
Okay.
This is just what if I was casting in 1987. Alfred, I have... star of future Star Trek The Next Generation, Patrick Stewart at the time.
Okay.
He would have been a more comic book looking choice, yet still true to casting the fact that it's not that big of a role, so he wasn't that big of a British actor at the time. Vicky Vale, again, my Batman is pretty young, so I had to find somebody in her 20s at the time. Robin Wright was just off the heels of Princess Bride, so I could kind of see that.
Yeah.
I was debating Nicole Kidman, but she wasn't even in the movies around 87, so
right.
I didn't pick that. Now we go into Joker and Batman, and here's where things might get a little controversial, because with Joker, he's supposed to be a 32-year-old dude, somewhat pretty-ish, intense eyes and everything.
Yeah.
As much as I think William Dafoe is the best Joker casting that ever happened, he doesn't quite fit the Jack Napier that's being described in the script.
Right.
I wouldn't really describe him as a pretty boy. Sam Hamm had a choice that he revealed in an interview, and when I heard it and I went to read the script, I realized that this actor was kind of who he pictured playing the role in the original version, and that's Ray Liotta.
Okay.
If you've seen him in Goodfellas, he has an interesting laugh.
Yeah.
To that, he plays a gangster eventually in Goodfellas in 1990.
That's a good pick. I like that.
If you've seen Something Wild with Jeff Daniels, he plays this ex-con lunatic who basically tries to kill everybody at the end, sort of thing. Very intense eyes and everything. I can see him as Jack Napier in the original version, which leads to Batman. And this might be as controversial of a choice now as Keaton was at the time, but I'm like, Burton was someone who wasn't physically imposing, but still a leading actor. Hamm wanted somebody who was intensely handsome, yet also could be a lunatic. And I'm like, who do I know, or who do we know, who's a leading man, not too physically imposing, and is kind of psychotic? So my vision when I read the script isn't Michael Keaton as Batman. It's Tom Cruise. Which seems crazy, but you have to think about it. On the shorter side,
though.
Keaton was also short.
How tall is Keaton?
Keaton is like 5'10".
Yeah, but Tom Cruise is like 5'4". Literally.
No, he's like 5'7".
5'7".
Well, they would still cheat it and things like that. Here's the thing: you can still use movie magic, but I'm going off of that scene where the whole a lot of all the things that are in the script of him being somewhat unhinged, or even though it's not in the original script, the whole let's get nuts scenes. I can see Cruise do that.
I can see Cruise doing that part. Yes.
It's this version of Batman. These aren't my ideal choices. These are my choices for this version of it.
Yeah.
And if the idea is this guy is just as much of a lunatic as the Joker, I can see that playing off, that dynamic of intensity playing off of Tom Cruise versus Ray Liotta. At the time, it would have been a weirder movie. And I'm not, there's no diss to Keaton and Nicholson, but what's described in the script is not Keaton or Nicholson's version. It's very much two very intensely handsome guys who are flat out psychotic and trying to fight and trying to kill each other.
Right.
Type of thing. In which case, I envisioned something very different. So, those are my picks. That was the original Sam Hamm version. Just to give you guys an idea of who was originally offered for stuff. They actually did ask William Dafoe, but for Batman. Weirdly enough,
they always get this shit wrong.
They considered him. Sam Hamm wanted him for Joker, but the studio offered Batman to Dafoe. They also offered Ray Liotta for Batman. Again, I'm just like, these are the Joker choices.
Wasn't Alec Baldwin a top choice for people at the time?
People say it, but it's never really been confirmed.
It's like everybody wants John Hamm now, but it's never gonna happen.
Yeah. Who was offered though was Pierce Brosnan.
To be Batman?
Yeah, which is I can see Bruce Wayne, but I don't know about the suit. A British actor named Bruce Payne.
What?
Was also because the studio is like Bruce Payne, maybe that'll be cool. That's the only reason.
This is the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Well, aren't we glad we got what we got?
Keep going.
With Joker, Sam Hamm said that Dafoe was someone that he thought would be good. He also considered Bowie.
Not a bad choice at all.
James Woods said, quote unquote, would be good, wouldn't need any makeup, which would save a couple of hours work every morning, which is a weird thing to say because I don't really think James Woods has pale skin, but
stupid. And also James Woods is a fucking maniac now.
Yeah,
Do you know about him on Twitter?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, Twitter wasn't around in 1987, so
he might not have been as crazy.
We're going off of what they knew of the guys.
I know.
Brad Dourif, the guy who played Chucky, claims that Burton wanted him for the part of Joker, but the studio wanted someone bigger.
Okay. Well, Uslan also wanted from the beginning. He wanted
Nicholson.
Nicholson, right?
Yeah. And then Nicholson was very skeptical about taking the part. So apparently they tried to make offers to other actors to try to sort of entice Nicholson and be like, well, this offer's going away because we're offering it to Robin Williams. And
they did offer it to him.
They did offer it to Robin Williams, and they offered it to Tim Curry, according to Sam Hamm.
I wouldn't put it past him, yeah.
Yeah. So supposedly Tim Curry even got paid to be offered and not actually be in the movie.
Really?
According to Hamm.
That happened to him again with the fucking animated series, didn't it?
Yeah, they did. So he's never gotten to play the Joker. I don't think he ever will, unfortunately.
That's fucking ridiculous.
Vicky Vale was originally Sean Young from Blade Runner.
Okay.
She literally was on the set and got injured, and they had to replace her.
Really?
Yeah.
So Basinger was a last-minute addition.
Basinger was a last-minute addition, just like Michelle Pfeiffer was last-minute addition in Batman Returns. It was originally Annette Bening.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, Pfeiffer fucking killed that shit.
Yeah, she did. I can't really see Bening in that version.
Yeah, Pfeiffer fucking swung for the fucking fences on that shit.
It worked out. Yeah. No, in the shooting script, there was going to be this whole scene at the stables with Vicky Vale on horseback, and then when they shot it, Sean Young got injured on the horse. That's why.
It's like the first thing they were shooting was his horse.
Yes.
Wow.
Which is dumb, but
So
whatever.
they liked that horse shit so much that was going to stay that was going to be in Batman '89.
There was going to be Vicky Vale and Bruce Wayne on horses, which would then tie in later when Bruce Wayne steals a horse to go after Joker and everything. And then you watch the final movie and there's not a horse in sight.
So it's probably for the best.
Yeah. I mean, I think they said they were somewhat influenced by The Dark Knight Returns because he's on horseback, but because the power's out because there's an EMP.
Right.
Right. Lastly, supposedly they did cast Robin by a young actor named Ricky Addison Reed, who was Irish and in the movie Return to Salem's Lot. But he wasn't the only actor who was offered. They supposedly offered it to Kiefer Sutherland, who was like, get the fuck out of here, because he was picturing the 60s show.
How old was he at the time?
This was like before Lost Boys. So he would have been like Chris O'Donnell type.
Yeah, right.
You know, they did hold open auditions, though. And I didn't find this out until recently because it was revealed on a talk show. But two Boston boys tried to audition for it and thought they got it. And that was Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
What? Really?
Yeah, Ben Affleck revealed that on a talk show, that they both auditioned to be Robin in Batman '89. They both thought they got it, and then they cut Robin from the movie. So Affleck could have been Robin.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Because they were both acting at the time. They were both in stuff. Affleck was in like this. I remember growing up, they showed us this '80s like TV show that young Affleck was part of. So
shit, I did not know any of this. This is amazing.
We could have seen Ben Affleck as Robin to Michael Keaton. It's insane if you think about it. So those are the original.
Insane history, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff that other people talk about. Like the whole Alec Baldwin thing, but I've never really found. Like, everything that I listed off was from the direct sources. So
I think Alec Baldwin was like this fan pick among nerds at the time. I don't think there was really any studio.
The thing is, like, I think he's a nerd pick in hindsight more so because he hadn't done Hunt for Red October.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that he had done at that time was Beetlejuice, which doesn't really display him as a Batman type. It wasn't until really The Shadow that people could see, like, I could see him as Batman. So
right.
I would pick him as like a 2020 hindsight choice for Batman Forever as a replacement for Keaton, but I don't really see him getting offered it in '89.
Right. Yeah.
So that's my history of all the different versions of the movie. Some stuff I'm glad we didn't get, and other stuff I'm kind of sad that it's not in the final movie. So
Robin was really a last-minute cut.
Robin was, yeah. To the point where they had even cast somebody to be part of it. So
this is sounding like if it's true that Burton really didn't want Robin ever from the beginning,
mm-hmm.
he was just going to go with it for the longest time and shoot it. But then when it didn't, I guess something happened like last seconds. Like
I think
there must have been some conversation like, well, I guess you are finally getting what you want.
Yeah,
I mean,
the sequence that's in all versions of the script. There's an action sequence after the apartment scene, the apartment scene at Vicky Vale's place, right up to the final shooting script where there is no Robin. There's still a sequence where there's like an unveiling of a statue, but it's like a giant Joker statue, and the Joker takes the mayor hostage and everything. It was really not. I read it and I thought it was stupid, but compared to the original version with the Robin thing. But I think it's because they cut that sequence where just like, okay, we don't have to do this. But what's cool is that when they did a reissue of the DVD, they still had the storyboards. They storyboarded that sequence out.
Oh, okay.
And you can find it on YouTube, but it's animated, and they got Kevin Conroy to voice Bruce Wayne and Mark Hamill to voice the Sam Hamm Joker.
This is fucking nuts, man.
This is why we're doing this podcast, because I'm like,
holy shit.
I know a lot of different versions of retrospective, and B89 would be just like, oh yeah, like we respect 89 because it started it, and it's not as good as Nolan's, but whatever. Like I wanted, like, here's some new info that like not a lot of people talk about. Right. Last thing to add, because I was telling this to Andrew earlier, but I want this on the record. Alan Moore was consulted on this movie. Burton had lunch with him. Sam Hamm talked to him or whatever. Moore sort of had this sort of weird conversation of wanting to make sure that Hamm had read The Killing Joke and everything, and to which Hamm admitted that he lifted a few lines from Killing Joke into the script. What lines there were, I don't know. It must have been a draft that I didn't read, because the draft that I read was before Killing Joke was published.
Right.
And Moore had told Burton, like, you know, get Gotham right and everything. And this was before Moore was anti-Hollywood, so it's kind of cool to know that he was part of it, but it's such a little known fact. It's published out there. I've read in several different sources, but nobody really talks about it.
Is there anything else, like the details of their meeting?
Not that I can remember, but I do have a computer in front of me, so I could easily look it up right now. But other than that, I mean, we have to keep in mind that this was written at a time where year one, I mean, Dark Knight Returns was just coming out. Year one was in script form. Killing Joke was in script form. So you can't really fault the movies for not really having it because it was so new at the time. Yeah, it says, in the Guardian article, it says Tim Burton took Moore to lunch to pick his brains about making the first Batman movie. Moore's advice was get Gotham City right. Let me see if I can find another thing from another source.
It's interesting. That's the most important thing for Moore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Moore had discussions with Burton and screenwriter Sam Hamm. This is from the Virgin Film Series 2002 book Tim Burton by Jim Smith and J. Clive Matthews. It says, I told them to make it dark and serious and exercise, as an exorcist, exorcise the ghost of Adam West. Let's see. Quote is taken from an interview that he did entitled "Murder He Wrote" for Hot Dog magazine. Okay.
Oh my god.
So those are the main things. Not a ton of details, but it is interesting to know that, considering how anti-Hollywood Moore is. But I think part of it's also because like Moore doesn't like what they're doing of his original works. Like Killing Joke isn't really one of his favorite things, so he's probably just like, whatever, Batman's Batman. It's not
he didn't
my
create
character.
Batman. Yeah, it's just
it's not my character. I just think it's an interesting tidbit that nobody really talks about.
That's cool.
When it comes to the movie,
but Moore is famously kind of a hermit.
That too.
So did they fly to England just to have a lunch with Moore?
No, because the majority of this production was in England.
So they're just already there.
They were already there. Yeah,
true.
There's a lot of English actors in this movie pretending to be Americans. The Gotham City set was on Pinewood, the same set where they shoot the James Bond movies.
And Star Wars now.
And Star Wars, yeah. And British kids snuck. You can find this online. They snuck onto the Gotham City set.
And they were like, oh, shit.
Yeah, and they took a whole bunch of pictures over there, and you can see the original Joker statue from the cut scene.
Really?
Yeah. It was. You can see this like statue of a bearded dude in the movie.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be of John T. Gotham, the like founder of Gotham. And they were originally going to unveil like a different statue later on, and Joker would reveal like, oh, it's actually a Joker statue type of thing. But then they cut that. There were so many things that were written or rewritten or cut and everything. As I mentioned before, Kim Basinger was John Peters' girlfriend, so there was no way she was not going to be in the final sequence. So
kissing the Joker's arm or whatever.
Yes, like apparently that was influenced because Burton and Peters, I think, went to the Phantom of the Opera on Broadway at the time, because that got released in '89. That debuted in '89, and they were influenced by some part of the finale or whatever, because it got to the point where Jack Nicholson is walking Kim Basinger up the stairs, and he's like, "Wait a minute, why am I doing that again?" And Burton's like, "I'll explain later." Like that was how like on the fly some of the stuff was, even though they had a completed script that was perfectly good.
That's
and I just described
nuts,
it to you.
man.
Yeah, they had so many completed scripts.
A lot of it is like without a lot of character work.
Right,
you know?
Which is why it's like this is when watching this movie, I can't help but feel like, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of nostalgia for it. It's responsible for our fandom, but also like, what if the original Sam Hamm version didn't get hit by the writer's strike? What if the studio just let that one happen? What if it got to be the whole more character-driven version? We would see a lot of people's careers would be different. I doubt that we would have gotten this. Like, maybe they still would have kept Jack Nicholson, but maybe it wouldn't have been Keaton, or maybe it would have still been that cast, but they would have played up different aspects more. We don't know. But it's what ended up happening was a very more studio interfered movie. That, you know, it's kind of, in some ways it's a shame that the original versions didn't come to light when it came to how character based that was. Right. And we didn't really get that until Nolan came around, really.
Right. Yeah, no one knew how to do that, it seems like.
Yeah, or no one really thought to approve that.
Right.
Or thought that was important, or whatever. It was all about action sequences or things like that, and the character stuff that I described to you in the original Hamm version was just not there anymore in the final cut, which is a shame.
Well, holy shit, man.
So that's my big retrospective on all the different versions that came up. All of these were basically, you can find a majority of these online. The Sam Hamm, there's many Sam Hamm interviews. There's a site called 1989batmanmovie.com where you'll find a majority of these interviews where I picked up some of that information. Some stuff that is kind of obscure because people don't talk about this movie in terms of the making of it that much compared to like the Nolan stuff. So
it's been kind of overshadowed in recent years, but
yeah, exactly.
As a movie that I've been watching my whole life, it's interesting to hear these other takes and to see where things went, like the scene in Vicky Vale's apartment and things like that, and
Yeah, exactly. So it's a shame that it happened, but like it's kind of cool to think what if and sort of do your own fan cast, that type of stuff. So here's to 30 years of 89, or 40 years if you count all the development stuff, and who knows what other stuff will be uncovered as we keep going further and further into history.
Was there anything else added or taken away, rather, from that scene where the Joker is cutting the pictures? Do you know anything?
It was originally, you were going to see files from like the CIA or something. It was actually a nerve toxin that he stole from the government.
Okay.
And it was you'd see pictures of animals with smiles, like monkeys and everything. It was really disturbing.
That would have been very disturbing.
And instead of the final image being him waltzing around because he's in love, he wasn't in love in the original version.
Okay.
He was cutting pictures of the Corto Maltese and putting it into a collage over a map of the city or pictures of the city.
Oh, that's kind of fucked up.
That was the image that he wanted to convey, and it's all.
So that Corto Maltese subplot, or I don't even call it a subplot in this movie, but that factor of the story was much bigger.
It
played into Joker's everything.
Yeah, because like if Vicky Vale didn't go to the Corto Maltese and take those pictures, he wouldn't be interested in her.
Right. Yeah. Everything revolves around that.
At the same time, Bruce Wayne wouldn't be as interested in Vicky because he sees some depth into her because she's seen tragedy, she's seen violence and everything like that up close, and he relates to that, which is why she stands out to him. This is not in the movie at all. Or, I mean, you have to read into it or know that before going in.
I'm glad I asked this question.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did too, because this is a whole different draft that I'm sure I forgot some things or skipped over some things.
I asked about that because that scene also, looking back, or just watching it now before we recorded this, something about it seems not quite as done professionally, or it seems like it might have been shot second unit or something. Like there's, maybe, I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm thinking about it too much, but it seems, I don't know what it is, man, but it just seems more amateurish than the other parts of the movie.
I've never really thought that. I mean, to me, whenever I watch this movie, what stands out to me are the Vicky apartment scene, again, the cathedral fight, but the Vicky apartment scene more than ever, because it just feels like it's almost from a different movie. But now that I know what was originally written, I kind of have to excuse it because it's like, all right, for whatever reason, they scrapped the original version,
right?
And you guys kind of had to write stuff on the day of. I wouldn't be surprised if Keaton just improvised the whole "you want to get nuts" thing.
But when you explained to me that he wanted to draw the fire to him, that shit makes a lot of sense. I don't think I really fully got that until you said that.
In the shooting script, Joker does show up. It's a very different, really written scene, but Joker still does show up, and Batman still has the utility belt because he used the utility belt still to open the box full of wax ears or dead flowers, which depending which version you're reading. And he puts the gun to Bruce, and he pulls the trigger, and the bang flag shows up.
Okay.
And, Bruce breathes a sigh of relief. And then later on, when Joker kidnaps Vicky Vale because he wants her to capture what he's going to do with the mayor and everything, he turns back to Bruce and says, "Never rub another man's rhubarb." And then he shoots him. And then after they leave, we cut back to Bruce, and he gets up, and he sees that the utility belt caught the bullet.
Oh, my God.
So that was the original version of
not
that.
A fucking dinner tray.
Yeah, not a dinner tray at all.
Okay. Well, that does, at least the dinner tray shows like resourcefulness on his part, I guess.
Yeah, rather than just randomly bringing the utility belt. Also, it was revealed in the shooting script that that Joker poisoned a lot of the police.
Okay.
Which kind of explains why there's not a lot of police at the end.
Yeah, right. It's
just Gordon and just like a few squad cars.
Yeah, if you wanted to wreak havoc, that's something that you would do, I guess.
Yeah, like it gets disturbing where Joker's like laughing while he sees like cops on the street just like on the ground choking.
They're like the first target, or one of the first targets, yeah.
Yeah, so like when Bruce first takes the horse from the cop is like already like dying of the poison and everything, and Bruce can't do anything to save him. So he just kind of has to take the horse because he knows he has to stop the Joker. He can't do anything for the guy.
Right.
Type of thing, which makes it darker than the original version with Robin. But that was the take on it. Knox lived in the shooting script, but originally Batman seemed to fall after that whole sequence where Joker's like, "I saved the last dance for you," and they both fall at the cathedral.
Right.
Batman seemed to fall. Everybody flocks around the cape, and they take the cape off, and Vicky's like, "What do I do? I got the camera. Let's see what happens." Gordon takes the cape off, and it's Alexander Knox.
Oh, my God.
And everyone's like, "Alexander Knox is Batman?" And he's like, "What happened?" and everything. And then you see like Keaton unmasked, but with a tunic and with the bodysuit and everything, like kind of wrapping a coat around himself and like escaping as everyone else is looking at that.
Oh, shit.
They might have shot it. I don't know. I don't know if they did, but it was in the comic book adaptation. But that's kind of another thing that didn't make it to the final movie. There's a lot of shit that didn't make it in the final movie that, like, now that you know, it's like, oh, that would have been really fucking cool to see.
Yeah.
Like, you can visualize it, too.
And once you hear, like, a million versions, you can just put together your favorite version of this movie.
That's what I kind of did. I have a script where I took the Sam Hamm version, and then I put in different versions, different parts of the shooting script and the final movie into it. I'm just like, okay, if I want to experience this movie in a new light, which after rewatching this, I definitely need to do because I've pretty much memorized this movie backwards and forwards at this point. I should probably just reread that script from now on instead.
Yeah. Well, fucking A, man. Yep. This has been enlightening as fuck. Any other final thoughts?
The Sam Hamm, if you're listening to this, definitely love what you did. It's a shame that what happened. I'll leave one final fact is that during the writer's strike, DC asked Sam Hamm to write comics.
Okay.
So he wrote the anniversary comic for the 50 years of Batman. It was called Blind Justice, and that's where he introduced the idea that Bruce Wayne went around the world for training. And that's where he introduced a manhunter who trained Bruce Wayne in tracking named Ducard.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So, in a way, Sam Hamm still influenced what would eventually become Batman Begins.
That's awesome.
Even though at the time he had just finished writing the '89 movie.
Mankiewicz and Englehart are not with us anymore, or
Englehart is still. Mankiewicz died a few years ago. Englehart is still around. He just has a lot of resentment towards DC.
He won't talk about it probably.
Oh, he will talk about it, but he'll talk about it in like angry terms and everything. It's just I don't necessarily agree with him. However, I respect him as a writer.
We would love to have you on, regardless, Mr. Englehart.
And I would love to read the original treatments and prove me wrong. I know I said earlier like I don't see a lot of it. Prove me wrong that like the treatments, maybe they did have more of an influence on the final movie than I thought.
Superhouse could at least be a way for you to get your version out, Mr. Englehart. True. So, if you want to clear the air or whatever, we don't even have to agree.
Indeed.
Actually, I whatever. Yeah. It's a cool interview to me.
I don't know if I'm ready to go toe to toe with Stephen Englehart, but like we'll see. Like I love the stuff that he wrote for the Dark Detective arc. That's what he calls it, and he was partially responsible for Night of the Stalker too.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so he's been a big influence, and he created Star-Lord.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So he has had a big influence. That's kind of gone. He's not as known as like the Frank Millers or the Neil Gaimans of the world, which is a shame, because he did quite a number on some of our favorite characters.
Speaking of Star-Lord, quick tangent, but you know what happened to the original guy that created the Guardians of the Galaxy, or at least Rocket Raccoon, I think.
Bill Mantlo.
Yeah, he was like hit by a car whenever he was like rollerblading or something.
About that. Yeah.
He's been in a hospital bed for like 15, 20 years.
Here's the thing.
Sorry to end on a bummer.
Yeah. Like comic book industry, it's like they own the rights to the characters, things like that, which unfortunately means that the creators who actually put in the work don't always get the benefits.
Yeah.
You would think somebody who created somebody as big as Rocket Raccoon would be fine in terms of financially.
I mean, even if he was receiving royalties from that one character, that didn't have any fucking money probably until the movies.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a fucking shame. I don't blame, people for being resentful for it. I don't blame Englehart for being resentful for it. I might disagree for the reasons why, but I'm sure there's other stuff involved that I would agree with. But unfortunately, that's kind of just how it works. It's also why, like, if I were to make my own mark on the Batman character, I would do it in a fucking movie. Because in the movie, you can at least be like, okay, well, that was Ben Wan's version of Batman. Everybody saw it. But in a comic, you can easily forget who the writer was or anything like that. It's owned by DC. Like, there's only so much you can do. You can put your stamp on the character and still get fucked over financially later on.
Yeah. From one time I heard this great, analogy where it went like, you can fit everybody in your mom's kitchen that makes money off of comic books.
Right.
That actually makes, like, good money.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's just not very many.
Yeah, it's a shame because they form the basis for these movies that are now making millions of dollars, but these movies are only making millions of dollars because people had this material to work off of and everything. So like the Nolan movies are very much influenced by stuff written by Greg Rucka or Doug Mensch or any of those guys, but they're not the ones who are famous for it. Like Dark Knight, there's so much of Killing Joke in terms of the philosophy of that, but like I'm sure Alan Moore's not getting anything out of it, nor does he want it.
He didn't give any of his royalties from Watchmen or something, right? He literally refused the money and gave it all to his co-writer. That's how much Moore believes in that shit.
Yeah, which is a fucking shame, but
he's straight up refused money.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, fuck you. That's fucking crazy. So, Moore's an interesting guy, man.
There's a lot of bad blood there. So I love the stories, but the whole company politics, like whatever the fuck they did, I'm not crazy about it myself. I mean, look at what happened with Bill Finger,
Yeah. Anyway, that was sort of a side tangent.
Happy 30th anniversary, Batman 89.
Yes. But yeah, any other final thoughts before we head out of here?
I feel like I've said most of what I want to say, but I love reading these unproduced scripts. If you guys like to hear more and more about it, I have more thoughts or ideas on the way. I just got a copy of the Batman Dark Knight script, not The Dark Knight, but Batman Dark Knight, with Dark Knight being one word, by Lee. It's by Shapiro and Wise. I forgot the first names. I think it's Bill Wise, Lee Shapiro. But it was what was going to be the sequel to Batman and Robin that would have tried to bring it back to its roots, and would have been the redemption. Yeah, the redemption for George Clooney, in a way, and it was going to have Scarecrow and Man-Bat in it.
I think Man-Bat is something they're going to do eventually. That sounds.
Yeah, I can see that. I haven't read the script yet. I'm waiting on it a little bit just to. I'm going to probably. This is the masochist in me, but probably rewatch Batman and Robin beforehand just to see if there's any sort of connective tissue. With that.
Hear me out. If you go into that movie expecting just to see like a kind of revised, Adam West Batman movie, if you go in with like those kind of expectations, I don't feel like those movies would be awful.
The thing is, I haven't seen it since '97.
I haven't seen since the theater myself.
Yeah, so...
But I kind of feel like if you just...
Should we do another episode?
Maybe.
Should I come back and rewatch that?
We need to go in order at this point. We need to see Batman Returns next.
Yeah. I mean, I did rewatch that already in Christmas.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, we could just do this for every movie. There's Batman. I read Sam Hamm's Batman 2. I read the Danny Waters Batman Returns. I read the original version of Batman
This
Forever.
might have to be the next step after this, actually. But I think going in order is the way to go.
All right, Batman 2 is next, starting with Sam Hamm's Batman 2 script. I'm going to have to figure out who I would fan cast, but just to give you a preview, I think his version of Penguin would have been more traditional, and I picture Tim Curry.
I'm cold-blooded.
It's a different Penguin than that. It's very much more the traditional version.
Oh, man. All right. Well,
I
think it's time to close it out.
Give you guys a preview of next time. But, yep.
Yeah.
The unproduced Batman.
This has been an awesome series, dude. Thanks for coming on.
Of course.
And you can catch us on patreon.com/SuperHousePodcast. That's patreon.com/SuperHousePodcast. Thank you, Shasta, for always being there for us. It's only a $1 tier. And we might add more tiers in the future, but for right now, it's just essentially a virtual tip jar. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those things. Search for Superhouse Podcast. And you obviously found the podcast if you're listening now, but if you want to find us in any other formats, we're, of course, on iTunes, Google Play. We're on Spotify now, actually.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Yeah.
I've been re-listening to my episodes.
Yeah. It's very easy on Spotify. We're on Stitcher. We're on all that stuff, man. Anywhere you find podcasts, you can find us there. And I think that's going to do it. I am Thunderwolf Drew on Instagram and Twitter. And you're Ben Juan Writer, correct?
That's correct.
On Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
What about Twitter?
I'm not on Twitter.
Okay.
I don't have time for that shit.
Yeah. I'm addicted to all social media. It doesn't matter what it is. So I'm always on that shit.
Maybe someday. I just don't. Like, there's been too much shit going on Twitter and everything. I'd rather not.
Stay pure, bro. Stay pure.
I'll stick to.
Well, I've gotten interviews. I got Athena Finger to come on here due to Twitter.
That's true. Hey, Sam Hamm has a Twitter.
Hey, Sam Hamm. Hamm? How do you spell his
Hamm.
last name?
Hamm.
Okay, cool.
Big
I might
fan.
be doing that.
I know it's probably everybody talks to you about the script, but I have a full appreciation of it. And I'm very curious what you think of my fan cast of this, because Cruz's Batman I know sounds like it's crazy, but it fits what you wrote.
I'm going to send him this episode. So
all right, let's see what happens.
Slip into his DMs. All right, this is Andrew signing off.
All right, Ben signing off.